Hi, I'm Danae Grandison, and you're listening to the Actors MasterClass with J.R.which.
Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I can't see you.
Oh, you can't? Sorry.
I'm seeing D. Grandison. So welcome to the Actors Masterclass. Tell me, why did you decide to come into the entertainment slash acting slash theater slash film business?
Kind of started a couple years ago, or almost, a couple is not right, almost 10 years ago. And I was asked or was thrown at me or recommended, hey, go back to school and take up film. Because at the time, I was still very involved as a graphic designer and art directing in a commercial space. So I took a course. I was like, I don't know, where is this direction coming from and if it's worth pursuing. And then I took a continuing ed summer program on intro to filmmaking. And I started on film, on a Bolex, and it changed my life. It was definitely a medium where I felt like, oh, this is where I can exercise my own voice. When you're in a commercial space doing design for other people, it's your voice you're lending to their idea. So it's a different form of expressing that creative muscle. And then I like the fact that this one existed. I'm like, I have things I want to say, and I could really say what I want to say. So that's how I wound up in that space.
So that's an interesting story. For me, my story is really weird. Like, I wanted to go to Norman Manley Law School and ended up
wow.
at the Edna Manley College. Let's not talk about no more about that. So what was that first thing that you did that made you know that, hey, this is it?
We had to create, one of the takeaways of the class is, creating your own film. And I had to do a 1-minute silent film. So the first was just cracking the code of like, what does it mean to write? And then after I got past the writing, everything else kind of fell together. It was, conceptualizing. I'm already a visual speaker. So I was like, okay, let me get all these ideas in my head and, see how I'm going to see it play out. And I just watched it play out. And then I interacted from auditioning to interacting with the talent and being the person on camera. The whole experience was just really fulfilling. And the icing on the cake happens when it plays to an audience and you hear the audience respond on the notes that you set. And you're like, oh, wait, okay, all right, I can do this. And that was, the process that got me there.
So you started as a producer. For many people.
No, it was, the course was you were going to write and shoot a short film. So it wasn't that I was a producer. I was the filmmaker responsible for every nit and cranny. It was a very small class. And we are essentially the camera person. You might be able to bring on someone else's camera, but ideally you're supposed to be on camera, however they worked it out. It was a little summer course, and that was it. So I wouldn't say I started off as a producer. I would say I started off as a writer director.
So why did you
person?
How did you end up as a producer?
I don't really consider myself a producer, but I have produced productions. So that kind of happened when I went back to school to do a master's. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of starting late in the game, and I wanted to play a different kind of catch up and create different relationships. So one of the requirements was to graduate was to have a thesis film, and in that process, you have colleagues. And then when we're done with school, everyone has a new project. And then your colleague would say, hey, can you work with me on this? And that's how I wound up producing other short films. But my real focus is my trajectory is writer, director, but I have produced, and I do produce at times.
So not everybody who enters the film business get to do exactly what they want to do. How did you shape that opportunity? Like, what was special about your scenario? Was it in Jamaica? Was it in New York? What was special about your scenario that allowed you the opportunity to do exactly what you wanted to do?
Being in the field as a graphic designer for as long as I did, I learned some very key things. And one of the first things I learned, my very first interview when I graduated from college, however long ago that was. My first
Which college was that? Which college
I went to for graphic design and advertising. I went to Fashion Institute of Technology, aka FIT. And when I left that school and I had my first interview, was it a job that I really wouldn't have been interested in? And the guy was just, you know, he was like my dad's friend. He became like a referral. And he sat me down and says, oh, you know, I like your portfolio and everything. And asked what I really, you know, where I see myself. And he said, this is my first piece of advice I want to give you. I don't think this job is for you. I'm like, but my advice to you is, as you move forward, choose your jobs carefully. Because whatever you do, and even if you get good at it, that's what people will always know you for, and that's what they call you for. And if that's not where you want to be, just be a little bit more pragmatic. So I've been in the design industry for however long, and I've done a lot of, played a couple bit of different industries, from magazine to music to finance and et cetera. And I really do try and make sure that I crafted that kind of name for myself and the skill set. So when I got into film, and at this point in my life, I'm like, I know I'm supposed to say yes to everything. So I tried everything, and I quickly figured out what I did not like. And I quickly understood what I do not want to be known for. And I just took the risk, and I would say no.
I love that. I figured out what I did not like and what I want to be known for. I love that. I love that. I love that. I realize you've been using a lot of Jamaican talent in your production. I saw Kimberly Patterson, Jerry Benswick in your 2018 production. Tell me about that production and making films. Would you rather work with Jamaicans or Americans? And what's the edge? And what do you find with the Jamaican talent versus the American talent?
First off, talent is talent. If it's raw, it's there. And if they give it to you, I don't find a distinction between countries in that sense. It was more the stories. So like my very first film that I did, the very, very, very first one, I shot with a Jamaican talent as well. A little coincidental. I knew her, Barrett McCauley. She's known from like Royal Palm Estates and way back then. She hasn't acted in years, but you know, I was doing this production. She said, I'll do it with you. Fast forward, a lot of my stories will always interweave some Jamaican thread. It's just in me. Like, I just think we have stories where they can either be on the island or off the island, and integrating these characters into my stories is something that I'm very invested in doing. So that's the best way I could answer that particular question. I enjoyed working in Jamaica, though. It was the first time I was shooting in Jamaica versus here, and that was an amazing experience. Just being on a set where you hear your accent, you know, it's home. And then to watch home just function like an awesome machine, and everyone just got things done. And it just felt, maybe I was just being too nostalgic, but for all the nostalgia that I was having, it was just a beautiful experience. Every night wrapped. Of course, as a director, I always wrap with, okay, what do I have to do the next day? But I got to really live off the high of the talent when I was dropping them home. Like, oh my God, that's such a great scene. I listened to DP. I'm like, oh yeah, I will soon join them. But I lived off of their high, and it always kind of confirmed that it was a good day. So working with Jerry was awesome as well, because being that he's also a seasoned director and actor. And when he could even turn to me and say on the final day, he goes, you know, you got something. I was like, oh shit, that's a lovely honor to receive. So from young to old, older, you know, or just more seasoned, it was refreshing and just humbling to continue to just receive good feedback, even on the work.
How do you get your films funded?
Begging. Just beg money. Essentially, two things. I've invested money and I will do a fundraiser and get like a small portion, maybe at a different phase of it. So like my thesis film was the mix of grants, my personal investment, and crowdfunding. Got like 1,000 or so off of that. The next one, my personal money as well, went to family, because this one, the one you're referring to, Unspoken, that I did with Kim and Jerry, I'm turning that into a feature. So that became more like I can kind of raise a stake and go to an investor and say, can you invest in me and this dream? So I got some investment money there to at least get the concept out, to which I, did the festival run with, and I'm using it to give a snippet of what the story is.
Nice. And these fundraisers, they happen in Jamaica or they happen overseas?
Well, because I'm based here in New York. Okay, that's a fair question, because it's not one place. It's both places. So like even with this current film, Unspoken, the investor that helped me with the short film is based in Jamaica. So I am still looking to the island because it's a Jamaican story, and you're hoping Jamaicans would want to invest in their stories. And at the same time, I'm looking all over. I look in the US, I'm looking in the UK, I'm looking wherever opportunities arise where someone is looking to invest in a new story. And hopefully, this one is the one that they're like, oh, I love it, and I want to latch on.
With streaming recently, I mean, this week, Amazon bought MGM for $9 billion. And I know that's going to open up an influx of intellectual property acquisition from both small creators and large studios in Hollywood. Are you focused on streaming and getting your stuff in streaming culture versus the traditional theaters?
Especially now, yes. So I always was interested in streaming. I of course wanted to have a theatrical release. COVID manifested, and it kind of changed the playing field. Of course, I want to stream as well, because it gives me more global reach to the international market of Jamaican and Caribbean people that live worldwide. So it's easy, it's more access in that sense. So now with the uncertainty of like what theatrical release will mean, I'm not as, I must have my theatrical release first. Like, I don't think I'm as fixed on that being my must, but I definitely am like, I would love a streaming deal. Someone gave it to me. What? I'm gone. I wouldn't say no. Take it.
And do you think the stories that you tell, because this is one of the problems that persons say that Jamaican themed films have, is that it's a smaller audience. Do you think, what's the ingredient that you put in your film to make sure that it has mass audience potential?
I guess for me, I also, the type of stories that I want to tell, I look at Jamaica, and our motto is out of many one people. So I kind of always feel like we've found a way to watch our ethnic group live and work in a certain way. And I think it's harmonious. I don't think it's always absolutely perfect. So I always have this idea, and you come to the States, and then you kind of have to adjust and use, like New York, it's I think it's an ideal melting pot. I get to meet more people from the world, but yet you can still see the divided lines. So I'm inspired to tell stories that really bring cultures together, and where we don't feel so rigidly divided that these stories can never integrate. I think it's time we heal as a world and stop seeing each other as separate people. So I would like to tell stories where I can always find a very diverse characters. I also am currently drawn to stories of they fall under the untold, or the voiceless, and they're still relatable because in all honesty, life happens to everyone. And we might all experience it in different ways, but these, if you're violated, glorified, whatever, everyone is experiencing within their own culture. So I think my stories are relatable in that sense. It's just a character. I'm asking you to see this person in this light instead. So that's what I would like to bring to the screen when it's like my pet projects.
What advice would you give to young people, especially who want to enter the business as actors, directors, producers, whichever role? What advice would you lay on them?
Well, that's an interesting one because it kind of stems. I would probably have to hear what their path is. Where do they want to wind up? I love to share any information or any knowledge I found along the way. And it kind of is more organic based on where someone is going. So outrightly, I want to tell more people to get up and just believe in their craft and their voice and find their voice. But at the same time, honor knowledge and always find out ways to keep sharpening your tools. Actors, they have to go to workshops. They might not be working. They might not be on a project, but they keep exercising their tools. They find classes to take. They find ways to make sure they can step into a character and deliver. And it's a constant tool. You're always working. It's not like, you have it and it's done, right? And I believe the same thing for writers, directors. Find workshops to keep like growing, because there's always room for growth. So I love to do that.
Would you consider yourself as being in Hollywood?
No, I want to be. I feel like a very indie filmmaker right now. A couple times I've visited California. I'm like, whoa, I really do live in an indie world in New York. The energy, the way we speak, it feels different. I don't think I've ever crossed. I don't think I'm there yet, but I do feel that indie filmmaker spirit in my approach and the projects I've been doing and who I've been working with, if that answers.
And that makes it easier for you to use foreign talent because they don't have to be a part of the unions, etc.
Okay, so now that becomes like a different challenge, right? Because it depends on who your investor is. So if you are looking for an investor that's going to put X, Y money, and if they understand the industry to some extent, they will be motivated by the talent. And some people, even if they don't, they're just motivated by the talent. Jamaica would be motivated by Jamaica. They would be happy to see Jamaicans behind it. I found here, and because I'm a little bit of a stickler for wanting to have, if I'm doing a Jamaican story, for wanting to have Jamaicans, I will go and I will do my research and I will find out who is Jamaican and reach for that performer and want that person that's in a noteworthy space if it's what I need for Hollywood to greenlight me. So I will play within the parameters, and I have been doing that even with this feature film, like when I put together my lookbook and my dream cast. So I do have that there in place, but I'm definitely honoring wanting a Jamaican actors to play the roles if I could have my way.
Okay. And what do you want to see? Like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to take your company, your production company? Like, what's next for you?
I guess I'm a little bit of a realist as well, because I remember when I graduated from my master's program, my classmates would be like, "So, Danae, would you do TV and commercials?" I said, "Yes, I would like to eat. I don't think everybody makes a movie every 3 months." So I'm practical in that sense. there is still room to exercise one creative voice despite the format. So for me, I'd love to see the company grow to is, doing commercial, still being able to do commercial work, and even making and changing even the language have my language translate in a commercial. And at the same time, be able to work in the episodic series space as well as make some more films. I'm definitely a period piece junkie. So I'm excited to just find a lot more, even, I guess I'm very Jamaican centric. Jamaica's my first go-to. I want to find more Jamaican stories. And in my head, I'm like, how do I dig into my father's head?
And there's so many of them. Like, not even going to your father, like off the cuff, there's Miss Lou, there's Marcus Garvey. There are all these stories about language, about culture, about struggle that are just like right there untold. There.
Yeah,
I agree with you. We're actually very much, that's why I'm listening to you, because everything you say, I'm finding commonality with it in terms of how you laid out your business. And I started as an actor, though. Okay. I started acting. I did a movie called Better Must Come. And when I got paid, I was on set every night. And when I got paid, I was like, wow, this can't sustain a family. I need to be the one with the budget. And it was at that moment I decided that I need to be a producer. I need to control the narrative. I need to tell my own stories. And I too have been in advertising. I've been in all parts of the movie business, making films, all of that. So I do truly appreciate your journey and where you are. And that's why I started this podcast, to hear from people and have them tell their stories so that other people can learn that to become an artist, we have to be entrepreneurs.
Yes.
It's like the deal that we sign up for is you have to run your own show, or is people going to run you?
Yeah.
My last question is less of a movie question and more of a music question. Okay. As a Jamaican, what kind of music you listening to?
Like right now, every now and again, it just draw for the old days of my years of 18 and 19, which really took me back to Fresh Vegetable, or I go way back there sometimes. Putting that dance mix in, your old school Bojo, your old school Beanie, and even something as Uptown Ranking. Like I've been finding myself in that little sweet, just like easy sway in this present moment. But when I catch a tune, I kind of feel a little removed at times from just being so far, and I don't turn on the radio. I really have to kind of just rely on me discovering something. If I'm on IG or I'm listening to something, sometimes my son, I happen to have a 18-year-old son, he will play a tune or I'll catch something. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And I start deep diving into what's current. But I generally kind of live in my high school days a lot.
Super cool. Super cool. Thank you so much, Danae.
Thank you.
You've been doing well. I looked up all your reels and stuff, and I'm very proud of you. And I believe a lot of people will be too.
Oh, thank you. Your lips are God's ears, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope to meet you soon and to work with you one day.
I would love that.
All righty. Let's keep in touch. All right.
Yes, please. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor to be on your show. I'm
super,
really excited.
super.
My name is Danae Grandison, and I'm watching the Actors MasterClass.
Cool.
All right. Awesome.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Hope I don't sound too robotic.
No, you're good.
I took the classes, but I respect the art enough to know to go and take the class.